Don't play with it, don't be dishonest.
Hello everybody and welcome back to the Hands Down Podcast with your host Javid Nordell. And guys, I'm excited for today's episode. Today we're going to be getting into the NFL draft, and I've realized I've never put out an official mock draft ever. Like, I've always done mock drafts and everything like that, but I've never done an official mock draft and put it out on the internet or anything like that before. And I have a podcast and I do weekly episodes on YouTube, and I'm like, yo, fam, why don't I do a mock draft for this week's episode? So that's exactly what we're going to do for today's episode. I'm going to do a first round 10 picks probably. I'm not going to do the first full round. I'm going to do a first round mock draft of the 10 picks coming into this upcoming Thursday's draft. Also, on that note, not only are we doing a mock draft today, guys, Thursday, the day of the draft, 6 o'clock Mountain Time, I will be going live, probably on TikTok Live. I will be doing a live stream though, and just to get my reaction, bro. Like, I'm so excited for it. Obviously, I'm super excited for today's episode to do a mock draft and to get either my geniusness out there or my idiotic stupidity, whatever one comes first. We're about to find out. And then we're going to see how shocked I am IRL and how great my mock draft is on Thursday. I'm going to be live streaming it on TikTok. So if y'all are interested, want to come get my sport reactions on the draft, or if y'all just want to come chat and talk ball with me, please join. I will have my TikTok in the description. That being said, let's jump into today's episode, an NFL mock draft with your host, Javid Nordell. I could not be more excited, guys. All right, y'all still see me in the corner, hopefully. Shout out NFL, shout out PFF for this mock draft simulator that we're going to be using for today's video. Have the first 10 picks selected here: Titans, Browns, Giants, Jaguars, Raiders, Jets, Panthers, Saints, and rounding it out is the Chicago Bears. With the first pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, Tennessee Titans select quarterback Shedeur Sanders. Just kidding. I'm playing. They are going to be selecting a quarterback. It's just not going to be Shedeur Sanders. They're taking Cam Ward from Michigan. There's no ifs, whats, or buts about this. They need a quarterback. They have the first overall pick. Cam Ward is the best quarterback coming out of this draft. He's the best prospect in this class quarterback-wise. He is going there. The only way I don't see this happening is if the Titans do their best Nico Harrison impression and they trade away the pick for draft capital. Not that it's a bad idea to trade away the pick for draft capital. You do own the first overall pick, but you're a team that needs a quarterback. You're a team that needs to find an identity, and you don't trade away this for capital because you're not going to get that quarterback with a trade, and you don't let Will Levis run it back. Will Levis had a lot of ups and downs last year, specifically more downs than he did ups, and I don't think that's worthy enough of trading the pick to get more capital to let Will Levis try again. When Cam Ward is sitting you in the face telling you to draft me, you draft Cam Ward. And Cam Ward is all but confirmed that he's going to Tennessee. He was live streaming some Fortnite the other day and was asked who his best receivers in the league was. He said it was Jamar Chase, Jay Jettis, Treylon Burks, and Calvin Ridley. Like, bro, come on. He also said A.J. Brown is a dog, but he's no Calvin Ridley. But I love the confidence for Cam Ward. It's through the roof. I think that is going to be a huge key to success for him, especially at the NFL level. Cam Ward is going number 1 to the Tennessee Titans. I would be shocked if there was a draft day trade for the first overall pick. And that brings us to the second overall pick, the Cleveland Browns. The Cleveland Browns and the New York Giants both are in interesting positions because both teams presumably need a quarterback, but both teams also brought in quarterback depth throughout the offseason because the Browns went and got Kenny Pickett, and then they recently just brought back Joe Flacco. So what I assume the Browns to do because of the contract that they have with Deshaun Watson is you're going to say, hey, Kenny Pickett, we know your ceiling and we know what your potential could be. Could you live up to that? We're going to let you start in preseason. We're going to let you start out the season. If you become great, great. That's a win for us. We'll just keep us afloat until Deshaun gets back, and then great. Or if you do better than that, coolio. If not, okay, that's fine. We throw Joe Flacco in there. We already know what Joe Flacco did for us for a couple of years back. We trust Joe Flacco, and then Joe Flacco either leads the rest of the season or you keep Joe Flacco in until presumably Deshaun Watson comes back, and then you hope that Deshaun Watson is the guy that you paid $230 million, 3 first-round picks to, by the way, and you hope that's the guy you get, not the Deshaun Watson that's been here in Cleveland. But I also think because of the $230 million contract that you have to Deshaun Watson, you can't go out there and you can't get a quarterback because you're invested so much in Deshaun Watson. It doesn't make sense to go out and get a quarterback. For Deshaun to be the highest paid quarterback off the bench, like what are we doing here? The Browns are in a predicament here because of his contract. You ride it out with Pickett, you ride it out with Flacco, and then you hope the best for Deshaun Watson. You at least finish his contract out and see where it can go. And then at that point, you take a player who can help you on both sides of the ball. And I think that's where they take Travis Hunter. Travis Hunter, I think, should probably be a corner in the league over a receiver, but he's very adamant about wanting to play both positions. And maybe if you're Cleveland, you let him try it. You say, what's the worst that can happen? The worst that can happen is you find out, okay, hey, he only can play receiver, or hey, he only can play defense, and that's still a win. The best that can happen is he ended up playing both on both sides of the ball, and then you just found a receiver and a cornerback with one pick. That's like killing two birds with one stone. It's a win-win situation. I think it's a win-win-win situation regardless, because you either get him offensively, you get him defensively, or you get him in both. So I think it makes the most sense here. But then, like I said, the Giants are also in that interesting position because they needed a quarterback coming into this, but then they went and they paid Jameis Winston. And I said, okay, this is about to be Jameis Winston going crazy, 30 for 30 type season. And then I thought Malik Neighbors was about to have 2,000 receiving yards and 19 touchdowns. But then you brought in Russell Wilson and you gave him a contract worth up to $21 million. And I'm like, okay, just kidding. Break check. Let me see what they're doing here. I don't know. I'm still lost in all the sauce. Probably not even good sauce. That's how lost I am. But I'm like, okay. So are you hoping for the Russell Wilson that you saw flashes of in Pittsburgh, and then hoping that you get the Russell Wilson in Seattle and combine the two of them, and then maybe you give Russell Wilson a contract after the year ends if he plays up to that? If not, you're like, okay, Jameis Winston is still there if Russ isn't the guy we expect him to be, and we don't really care who Jameis Winston is because it's Jameis Winston. And if you're doing that, are you really going to add Shedeur Sanders into that quarterback mix too? That doesn't make sense too, right? Like to have, it makes sense to have him learn behind Russell Wilson, but it doesn't make sense to also have Jameis Winston in there. So I'm very confused at what the Giants are trying to do. That I'm bamboozled, and I don't think they take a quarterback because of that. And at that point, you go and you take the best player in this draft. And I think the best player in this draft is Abdul Carter. I think Abdul Carter would probably go number one in any other draft. But because the Titans were such a team that needed a quarterback, I should say, he goes one. And then Abdul Carter, low-key, would have been nasty on the Browns. It's just the Browns don't need that. Abdul Carter and Myles Garrett line up on sides on the ball. That'd be nasty, but I don't think that's necessary for the Browns. So if you're the Giants, you full send it. You let Russ see what he can do. You have Jameis as a backup. You go take Abdul Carter, and hopefully Russ brings you to the promised land. I don't know that he does, but I think Abdul Carter gives you a better chance than Shedeur Sanders would be learning behind Russell Wilson. So you take Abdul Carter here. Like I said, though, the Browns and the Giants, I'm very intrigued, and I'm so excited to watch that, to see what those two teams do there, because if they both just take quarterbacks, okay, cool, kind of expected, but like kind of not. But like then if they both don't and do something crazy, like the rest of the draft could go crazy, because like if Shedeur doesn't go top 3, he might not even go top 10. He might even fall off the first round. So I'm super intrigued to like actually see what happens there. But then we have the Patriots, and the Patriots have done a lot. They obviously brought in Mike Vrabel, right? They found the quarterback of their future in last year's draft in Drake May, so you know you have your quarterback. Now, do you go and do you get him receiver help in Tedrow McMillan, T-Mac? But you also just signed Stephon Diggs, so do you double up on wide receivers? Do you double up on defense because you went heavy in defensive free agency, and do you bring in some defensive help like Walter Nolan or a Mason Graham? Or do you because you found your quarterback of the future in Drake May, do you protect him? And do you want to find that tackle to protect Drake May? And I think that's the route you go. You found the quarterback you want, give him protection, and give him protection for years to come. And I think because of that, you go and you take Will Campbell. I think Campbell is the best tackle in the class, and I think he would go perfectly with Drake May. And like I said, the Patriots have already done a lot defensively in this free agency, and you already brought in Stephon Diggs, so you don't really need to go double up on wide receivers now. You still can, you just don't need to this high, because you still probably can get a wide receiver who's going to give you somewhat decent production, especially considering it's the Patriots offense that we're talking about. That brings us to the Jaguars. Now, the Jaguars just need offense. I mean, the Jaguars need a little bit of everything, let's be honest. But I think the Jaguars need to give Trevor Lawrence a weapon. And I'm about to hop off of the Trevor Lawrence hype train because year in and year out, I continuously get disappointed by his performance, by his underperforming. But maybe he just hasn't had that weapon that he needs. And maybe Tedro McMillan can be the weapon that he needs. I don't know if that's going to be the case, but I think I'm not going to say it's a reach on T-Mac, but I think you take a wide receiver, which is taking a little bit aggressive, taking a top 5 pick with a wide receiver, but I think you got to give Trevor Lawrence some help. T-Mac goes number 5 to the Jaguars. The 6th pick is interesting because there's a lot of speculation that the Raiders want to take are going to take Ashton Jeanty, and I'm kind of at an awe right here. I don't know what to think because I'm a little biased here. And I want Jeanty to fall to the Broncos. I think Jeanty in the Broncos system would just be absolutely perfect. Sean Payton, Jeanty, Bo Nix, and they already brought in the tight end in Ingram, and they already have the wide receivers they have in Cortland Sutton. Like, I think he's kind of the missing piece as running back specifically, but I think Jeanty moreover. But a running back specifically is kind of what the Broncos are missing, and I would love to see Jeanty fall to the Broncos, so I'm a little biased towards that. But at the same time, like, as great as Jeanty is, I also don't think Jeanty is worth a top 10 pick. Like, yes, he is worth a first-round pick, first-round talent. Just, I would not say he's worth a top 10 pick in this year's draft. And like I said, there's been some speculation the Raiders take him, but I don't think I think you can get it's like, especially the team and who you're going to be, you can pretty much put anybody in that position and get good enough production out of them, and not have to put Jeanty in that position who's going to do maybe a little bit more. Like, you can probably get someone else who's going to do the average job, and that's just fine for you. And you can go out and still get some defensive help, which your team needs some defensive help. I think you go out and you get the best corner in this draft. And the best corner in this draft, in my professional opinion, is Will Johnson. You go and get Will Johnson. I think he can be a day one starter. He can go lock up your number ones, obviously number twos on teams. I think you go out and you get Will Johnson. Then we got the Jets. The Jets are an interesting team because they're kind of in a clusterfuck. They need a little bit of everything. Obviously, their whole fallout with Aaron Rodgers. Now, Breece Hall's been in some trade speculation. Low-key, if you do trade Breece Hall, I could see them taking an Ashton Jeanty here. But I'll be honest, I don't see a world where the Jets do trade Breece Hall. I think they would be lame to do that, but that's also exactly the type of shit the Jets would do. It is the Jets we are talking about at the end of the day. But the Jets, I think, go defensive help. I wouldn't be shocked if they took a safety, low-key. Like a kind of a dark horse pick I have here is Malachi Starks. I don't see, if Mason Graham's here, I think the Jets take Mason Graham. But if Mason Graham's not here, I wouldn't be shocked if the Jets went with a Malachi Starks. But since Mason Graham is still on the board, I think the Jets take a Mason Graham. The Panthers are an interesting team here because obviously they have found their quarterback in Bryce Young, and I think the best thing they can do at this point is give Bryce Young weapons. I don't think Adam Thielen is a good enough weapon to just have for Bryce Young. I think you need to go out and get him another big receiving threat. And in this mock draft, for instance, Tedro McMillan isn't there. But in IRL, if McMillan is there, I think the Panthers should draft Tedro McMillan. But if he's not there, I see them doing one of three things. If he's there, you take Tedro McMillan. If he's not there, you trade down. You trade down and you get a receiver later in the first round if you swap a pick, or maybe in the second round, depending on where you trade that pick. And you get some draft capital, maybe get a player depending on that pick, because this is the 8th overall pick we're talking about. And then you get a receiver, or you get a receiver later in the draft, or you get a receiver via trade maybe throughout that. I don't know what receivers via trade would be available, but there is like a Luther Burden. There is an Isaiah Bond maybe later that you can get end of first round, maybe early second round. So you would trade down. Third thing I could see the Panthers doing is getting some defensive help, getting a safety or getting a corner. And for that sake, let's say Tedro McMillan, obviously not available, is taken at this point. I'm not going to do the trade to go down to draft down and get draft capital for a receiver like a Luther Burden or an Isaiah Bond. So in this sense, I think they do take a defensive player here. And I think they're going to go in disguise. Like, yes, they could get an edge, but I don't like Abdul Carter, obviously already gone. And then I'm not big on Walter Nolan, at least in Carolina. Like, I'm big on him, but I don't like the fit that he would have in Carolina. So I don't see him going there. So I would say it's between Barron and Starks at this point. And I think in this sense, Malachi Starks could, I think it might be a little bit of a reach, but I think his potential is through the roof. I could see him doing a lot of great things in Carolina. And like I said, I think they ultimately should take a receiver here, but if Tedrow McMillan is not available at 8, there's no shot they can take a receiver that's like with that 8th pick. That would be reaching way too much. I'm okay with the reach on Malachi Starks at 8 because that's a 1 overall reach if we're going off based off a technicality, so you're not really reaching too far on him. But I think the smartest thing here is getting McMillan, trading down to get a receiver. If not, I think you take Malachi Starks with the 8th overall pick. That brings me to my favorite team, the Saints. I might or might not be a little biased here, but okay, let's put it this way. The only way I'm kind of partially biased is if Shedeur is available. I think we do take Shedeur. Now, say Shedeur goes 2 or goes 3. I then think we maybe trade back to the 2nd round or something and get a Jackson Dart. I'm really high on Jackson Dart. Obviously not 9th overall pick high on Jackson Dart. But if Shedeur's not available here, we use the 9th overall pick as leverage to get some draft capital and then take Jackson Dart later in the draft. If Shedeur is available here, though, we take Shedeur Sanders. The only other person I would consider taking over Shedeur is Will Johnson. In this sense, Will Johnson is already taken. I think Will Johnson's the best corner in this draft. I would love to see him come to New Orleans, but we also need a quarterback. I don't know what's going on with Derek Carr. He is the most obvious thing. I don't know what's going on with Derek Carr right now. He is like the epitome of a used car. Just keeps failing, misfunctioning. Like it was his eyes, his back, his shoulder. And his money situation is so interesting because we could have cut him. We could have saved some money before the whole deadline thing, and then we decided to restructure it. We decided to turn it into basically the whole defuckle again of doing it all again next year. And now he came out and said there's some problems with his shoulder and he might not even play next year. So if we're sitting number 9 and Shedeur Sanders is available and we already don't know what the future of what Derek Carr is going to be, we take Shedeur Sanders. But say he gets taken 2 or 3, we draft down. I say we trade down and we try to draft a Jackson Dart later in the draft. But luckily for me, and no, it's not because biasm, I generally do not think New York or Cleveland takes Shedeur, but at the same time, I would not be shocked if New York takes Shedeur. But in this sense, you got to take Shedeur Sanders, and they have him ranked so low down here. He's at 45, which is kind of crazy. But that brings us to our final pick of the first round, and I'm going to go a little crazy on this one. I don't know the logistics behind it. I just kind of want to see it because I think this makes the most sense. The Bears, they went out, obviously, last year and did all the things, bringing in Caleb Williams, bringing in Roman Dunze, bringing in all the help, Keenan Allen, bringing in DJ Moore, all this stuff to help what was supposed to help Caleb Williams in his rookie year, right? And then now this year, obviously, it had not worked out. They went out and they got him protection. They shored up their O-line, getting 3 new O-line members. They don't have Keenan Allen here anymore. Then they got some defensive help in a Grady Jarrett. So, I'm intrigued to see what the Bears can actually do. But, I'm also being very... because the Bears did that last year and it didn't work out, I'm a little okay, what's going to actually happen with the Bears? But I kind of think a good thing, just giving a safety net to quarterbacks is so important. And I haven't done much, and I don't know much about this guy, but I would like to see Tyler Warren go in and be in Caleb Williams' safety net because you already got him his own line help. Now he already has his receiving threats as he still has DJ Moore. He still has a Dunze. His defense has the potential to be better, obviously, this year than it was last year. And they still got Tyreek Stevenson over there. Like I said, Grady Jarrett. Still got some good defensive players over there. Go out and get your quarterback a safety blanket. And you've already gotten the protection on the line. Go out and get Tyler Warren. Get your guy a safety blanket. That's kind of what I got for my top 10. I don't know. Is it crazy? Is it not? The CPU here is going through and obviously generating the rest of it. Let's see what they said. I just hypothetically out of that. They have Jalen Walker, who I'm actually kind of big on, going to the Colts. I would like to see that. James Pierce Jr. going to the Ravens at 27 is interesting. Kevin Banks Jr. to the Packers. I don't know about that. Walter Nolan to the Chargers, low key would be fire. But that's my mock draft. for the first 10 picks at least. I got Cam Ward going 1, Travis Hunter going 2, Abdul Carter going 3, Will Campbell going 4, Tedrow McMillan going 5, Will Johnson going 6, Mason Graham going 7, Malachi Starks going 8, Shador Sanders going 9, and Tyler Warren going 10. That is my first official mock draft that is going to be out there available for the internet to see. Flame me in the comments and come find out how it goes on Thursday for draft day. Like I said, I will be live on my TikTok. If I'm right on some picks, I might be a little crazy. If I'm wrong on some picks, definitely come let me know, guys. But that's all I got for today's video. Just kind of wanted to get out, do a mock draft for today. Playoffs are just around the corner for NBA basketball. I mean, we're in the play-in as we're speaking right now. Playoffs start tomorrow. Super excited for that. We'll probably discuss a little bit of the play-in in next week's episode and then look at preview matchups for whatever series is coming up in playoffs. And then, like I said, baseball is in full effect. Baseball's in full swing. I've still been a depressed Braves fan because we still haven't figured it out. But hey, we are almost there. Win by win, we will shortly get to 500. Appreciate y'all for tuning in. And don't forget, Thursday, the 24th, NFL Draft, my TikTok room, link in description, 6 p.m. Mountain Time. Hope to see y'all there.